that's it. So I've just completed it, okay, by completing that word. So, do you, and that's the sign that we witness that, and we sign this. Okay?
It's really the legally binding aspect of the whole thing.
Right.
See, a relative
Goes on in
is not
heirs.
allowed to sign this.
It's for show.
Only strangers who know that.
That was good.
You really should stutter now with the end of it. I'm so nervous.
Okay.
Yeah,
Dad?
shaking a little.
You say this is in Hebrew and English is the other line.
Afasena ataha la alfa rabubu v'yurash zarka esha sanaf simat Elohim kesur rivka ruchulai.
It's right here.
Our sister, may you become thousands of myriads. May your descendants inherit the gates of your fruits. May God make you like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel.
Amen.
Baruch haba. We welcome you, Andrew and Sharon, to the chuppah. There's a beautiful, beautiful statement from the mystical writings in Judaism, from the Zohar. And he says, you may have seen this hanging in my home actually, he says that prior to one's entering the world, the soul is made up of a female soul and a male soul as one. When they come into the world, they're separated and they're put into two different bodies. And under the chuppah, at marriage, the male soul and the female soul return together as one, and they become, as the Torah says in Genesis, basar echad. They become one flesh. They become one human being again. Sharon, I know you had a good excuse for not making my class this past Wednesday evening. I'll excuse you this time, but we're going to have a little bit of a makeup here, because the topic was love and marriage. And I spoke about the definition of what marriage is. Marriage is when two people are committed to the good and the pleasure of each other, and when two people are committed to common life goals. That's what it is. that you're committed to one another, that you look out for one another, that you care for one another, and not only that, but that you have a goal in life. And that's what the chuppah represents. The chuppah is like a home. And the chuppah is the sign that you're building a bayit ne'eman b'Yisrael, that you're building a home amongst the Jewish people. And what's interesting is the chuppah is very much reminds us of all the different holidays of the holiday of Sukkot. And in the holiday of Sukkot, we dwell for 7 days in a very small, temporary structure. And the holiday of Sukkot teaches us that it's temporary, it's flimsy, if you will, that all of existence, as sure as we are, ultimately depends on trust in the Almighty. That we have to recognize that we have to make our efforts, but at the same time, we have to be aware that God's looking out for all of us. I was speaking with your mother just before, and she was telling me you're married how many years?
32.
32 years. She says the bottom line is it's magic. That you need a certain aspect, the specialness of magic. I think we're saying the same thing. That we make our efforts, but at the same time we recognize that we have our commitments to one another, we have our commitments to what we're trying to achieve, and at the same time we have to recognize that God is looking out for us. So we will proceed by starting off by saying 2 brachot, 2 blessings. Because marriage, Judaism sees marriage as a holy thing. And what we're about to enter into is called kedushin, from the word kadosh, which is holy. And so whenever we perform any mitzvah, we do a bracha, we do a blessing beforehand. And although the obligation is on you to make the bracha, the blessing, I'll be saying it for you. You just have in mind. And when I finish the blessing, you say Amen, and you'll sip some wine. And don't interrupt, no speaking between the saying of the Amen and having some wine. Just some technical things to take care of as well. Okay? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al harayot v'yasar lanu et harusot v'hitir lanu et hanesuot lanu al yidei chuppah v'kedushin. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh amo Yisrael al yidei chuppah v'kedushin. Does somebody have a ring? You got the ring. Okay. I'd like to call up Dr. Al Cohen to be the witness, the second witness along with me. You're going to have to come right in so you can see everything. A couple more technical things. This is your ring.
Yes, sir.
You recognize it?
Yes.
You bought it with your money?
Yes, I did.
Not joint money?
Put it on my Visa Gold.
But it hasn't been. See that it's worth a chef of fruits? It's worth $1 or $2. Okay, you're going to take this ring, stick on the right index finger. You want to say this together, or would you like to read it?
Prompt me.
Hare,
Hare,
at,
at,
mikudeshet,
mikudeshet,
li,
li,
bitabaat,
bitabaat,
zo,
zo,
kedat,
kedat,
Moshe,
Moshe,
v'Yisrael.
v'Yisrael.
Behold,
Behold,
you are betrothed
you are betrothed
to me
to me
with this ring,
with this ring,
according to the law
according to the law
of Moses
of Moses
and Israel.
and Israel.
Okay, earlier we had signed the ketubah. which is the marriage contract. I will not read the whole thing in Aramaic. I'm assuming that not everyone here is fluent in Aramaic. I will read some of it and the English portion. The ketubah is the marital obligations that you have to one another, the contract in essence. Be'echad b'Shabbos shivar asar yom l'chodesh Kislev shnat 5,755 l'briot ha'olam l'minyan sha'anu minyan kan b'Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Echa bachur Abraham Akiva ben Velvo HaKohen Amar la lahada habachur Amar la lahada betulsa Sarah bas Moshe Chaim Halevi Have li la'antu kedat Moshe Yisrael va'ana achuz va'okir va'izun va'afarnes utif v'lichik v'hilchus govri nihudim v'palkin mokim v'zanim v'farneslin v'shehom v'kushta. We'll leave it at that. I don't want to go through the whole thing. Okay. On the first day of the week, the 17th day of Kislev, in the year 5755, corresponding to November 20th, 1994, the Holy Covenant of Marriage was entered into at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, between the bridegroom Andrew Keith Fine and the bride Sharon Sternberger. They promised to love, honor, and respect each other and live according to the law of Moses in Israel. The husband will take upon himself all obligations for his wife's sustenance as prescribed by our religious statutes. The wife will take upon herself the fulfillment of all the duties incumbent upon a Jewish wife. This covenant of marriage was duly executed and witnessed on this day according to the law of Israel. This give to Sharon. Someone to hold on in the meantime, but don't lose it, it's important. When people get married, there's a certain assumption that we have. We assume they're in love. I think it's a fair assumption. I would like to talk about a little bit about love. Because there's a very, very interesting Mishnah, part of our oral tradition, which talks about love. And it talks about ahava shetalui bedavar. Any love which is dependent on anything will not last. If someone loves someone for their looks or for their money or for whatever, it will not last. Because when the thing goes, whatever it's dependent on, the love goes. As opposed to ahava, love, shelo talui bedavar, which is not dependent on anything. And it's very interesting because in our Jewish history, the rabbis searched throughout all of history and they wanted to see what was the greatest expression of this type of love between two individuals that we could all learn from. And what's interesting is they don't pick a man and a woman. They pick two men. They talk about King David and Jonathan. And they say that is the ultimate expression of love not dependent on a thing. And the reason for that, a little bit of history, is that King Saul was the king at the time, and his son Jonathan was the heir to the throne. But God, in essence, kicked out King Saul. He was impeached. But nevertheless, there was this tremendous friendship between David and Jonathan, the heir to the throne. And Saul was so irate at David, he even attempted on a number of occasions to kill him. And Jonathan, who had a lot at stake, he had his whole future at stake. He had the most prestigious position in the Jewish people and ultimately mankind to lose. And nevertheless, he was willing to forego that and put it all aside because he recognized that his friendship to David was more important. And he helped David out on a number of occasions when he knew of his father's plots to get rid of David. And it's a very, very powerful expression of what we mean by love. That now that you're under the chuppah, now that you're getting married, now that you are married, and now that you're building a life, you're two forming as one, that you're committed to one another. You still have your goals, your personal goals in life, but now there's the recognition that I have to realize that my ultimate goal in life, my ultimate calling, is to make the other happy. That is what ahava is. That's what love is. And I know I speak for your parents and for everyone here when we wish you the greatest in bracha and hatzlacha, in blessings and success in children, in building a home in Israel, and for everything good with much mazal, with much greatness that God has to offer. Okay, we will continue with the Sheva Brachot. There are 7 special blessings that are said under the chuppah, and I'd like to ask your father to say them. Just one second.
Burich atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, boirei pri hagofem.
Amen.
Burich atah Adonai melech haolam, sach hakol burech boidoi.
Amen.
Burich atah Adonai melech haolam, yoitzer haodam.
Amen.
Burich atah Adonai melech haolam, asher yutzer esudam et salmo, b'tzelem demistav nisai, v'hiskin lo mimenu, b'nyan ad burich atah Adonai, yoitzer haodam.
Amen.
Sois tu sis, v'sugal hakura, v'kibetz b'neu, v'suchu v'simchu, burich atah Adonai, mesamach Zion v'b'neu.
Amen.
תשמח רעים הוא אבים, כשמח הוא יצירך בגן עדן מקדם, בוריך אדוני, משמח חוסן וקלו.
Amen.
בוריך אדוני מחולם, אשר בורו וסוסן, ושמחו חוסן וקלו, גילו רינו, פיצו וחדבו, אהבו וחבו, שולם ורייסיסמה, מהר עדן אלהניס, שומע באורה, יהוד וחצז ירושלים, כל סוסן וכל שמחו, כל חוסן וכל קלו, כל מיצלס חסונים מחיפושם, ונורים ממשתני גוסם, בוריך אדוני, ושמח חוסן עמקלו.
Doing this again. Now I'm going to give Andrew a ring and quote a very famous line from Shir HaShirim, from King Solomon's Song of Songs. It says, Ani l'dodi,
Ani ladodi,
v'dodi li.
vidodi li.
I am to my beloved,
I am to my beloved,
and my beloved is to me.
and my beloved is to me.
Okay. We finish the ceremony by recalling that no matter how much joy we feel, the joy isn't full until Jerusalem is totally rebuilt. And even though there's much construction going on, it's still not totally rebuilt in the symbolic sense of we still have very many enemies. We still have a lot of people that for some reason have difficulty with the Jewish people. And so the rebuilding of Jerusalem represents the rebuilding of the Jewish people in terms of their position vis-a-vis mankind, that we are a teacher nation, that they recognize us, and then we will have ultimate peace in the world. And just as a marriage represents total peace and harmony between two people, so too we look for that peace worldwide. So to recall that we're still missing an aspect, we break a cup. Do this with your right foot. Mazel tov.
Next to the glass. One pitcher. Show me the glass.
moments. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, while I have your attention for a few moments, we'd like to call up Danny Israel, our best man, with his glass, please, for a toast. Uncle Marvin, they say if the bride takes the first bite, she's going to have twins. Oh, but Andrew said no. Okay. How about a nice round of applause for Uncle Marvin? He did a nice job.